Good day everyone. Today we will be discussing Chapter 13, Management for the Future. This topic focuses on how businesses can grow and expand successfully while preparing for future challenges. So without further ado, let's get started. So for this slide, let's talk about when a business should expand. Sooner or later, every business owner will think about growing their business. But expanding is not something we should rush. It is important to plan carefully to make sure the business will succeed. Before expanding, we need to check if the business is already stable. This means that daily operations are running smoothly, customers are satisfied, and the business is earning consistently. If there are still problems, it's better to fix them first before growing. There are two main factors to consider when deciding to expand. First is the condition of the business. Ask yourself, is the business financially stable, or do we have enough staff and resources? If yes, then the business might be ready to grow. Second is the economic condition. This includes the demand in the market, competition, and overall economy. For example, if many people want your product, it might be a good time to expand. But if the economy is weak, expanding can be risky. So, in summary, expansion should be done at the right time with proper planning and careful decision making to avoid failure. So next is controlling your business growth. Growing a business sounds exciting, but growing too fast can actually be risky. Some people think faster growth is always better, pero hindi yun totoo. Uncontrolled growth can cause problems, just like no growth at all. For example, if a business expands too quickly, it might not have enough money, workers, or equipment to support the growth. So, pwede ito siyang mag-lead sa poor service, low product quality, or even losses. Kaya, it is important to control your growth and plan it carefully. Kasi, ang businesses, dapat gagrow ito siya step by step, not all at once. To do this, a business needs to create a clear plan. First, set measurable goals so you know what you want to achieve. Second, hire the right managers and supervisors to help handle the increased workload. Third, make sure there is enough funding to support the expansion. And lastly, prepare all the resources needed, like materials and equipment. So, growth is important, but it should always be controlled and well-planned to make sure the business stays strong and successful.
Hello guys. So, ito lang siya guys, super simple lang actually. When a business wants to grow, may 3 ways lang sila usually ginagawa. So, first is market penetration. Basically, ito yung already have your product, tapos instead of changing anything, you just try to sell more of it. So, kunwari, same customer, same place, pero mas pinapadami mo yung bumibili. Like promos, discounts, or mas maingay na marketing. So, second is expand geographically. So, ito naman is same product pa rin, pero you bring it somewhere else. Like, if okay ka na sa area mo, you try another city or ibang country. So, parang okay, gumagana na dito. So, try naman natin sa iba, parang ganun. So, third is diversification. Ang diversification is medyo risky siya. Kasi, here, you are adding something new. New product, minsan new market pa. So, hindi ka na stuck sa ginagawa mo before. Like, kunyari, clothing brand. Clothing brand ka. Then, bigla kang maglalabas ng ibang type ng product. So, parang So parang explore ka na ba? So ganun.
Greetings everyone, I am Danica Talaveras. So for today, I will explain the product life cycle. The product life cycle is a process kung saan dumadaan yung isang product from the time na ini-introduce pa lang siya sa market to the time na hindi na siya binebenta. So there are 4 stages in the product life cycle. First is the introductory stage. So dito, bago pa lang yung product, kaya di pa siya kilala ng mga tao, bali mababa pa yung sales. And the company spends more on advertising. Like, nag-e-effort talaga sila para ma-introduce lang yung products na ino-offer nila. Next is the growth stage. Bale, dito sa stage na ito, nagiging popular na yung product. And mas marami ng tao yung bumibili dito. So, tumataas na rin yung sales and kumikita na ng malaki ang business. Kasi marami na silang nasasakop na mga customers para bumili sa kanila. Third is the maturity stage. Well-known na yung product dito sa stage. Bale, mas mataas na ang sales pero marami na yung competitors na magkakaroon sa kanila. Kaya bumabagal na yung growth kasi it's because ang iba ay may mga bagong preferences and they chose to buy somewhere else or somewhere new to them. For example, marami ng milk tea shops sa paligid, which is very observable naman since uso yung milk tea shops sa atin ngayon sa panahon natin. So, kahit kilala na yung brand, kailangan na nilang magbigay ng promos or new flavors para ma-maintain nila yung customers or hindi sila mawalan ng mga customers na magbibili sa kanila. Lastly, the decline stage. So, dito sa decline stage, bumababa na ang sales sa kanila kasi may mga bagong products or trends na mas pinipili ng mga tao. And hindi naman talaga natin sila masisisi kasi over time, nagkakaroon naman ng bagong trends and as a person, bumabago rin yung ating mga gusto. That is all. Thank you.
So now let's proceed on the new product development. It is important for businesses because they need to stay competitive in the market. Hindi pwedeng pareho-pareho lang ang product nila habang nagbabago ang needs ng customers. Because of this, companies create new products or improve existing ones to attract more buyers. The process is not done instantly because it requires careful planning and decision making. Kailangan pag-isipan kung ano talagang gusto ng customers. This is why businesses follow a step-by-step process to make sure the product will succeed. If they skip these steps, there is a higher chance that the product will fail. So this process helps reduce risk and improve the chances of success. For example, let's say a milk tea shop wants to create a new product for health-conscious customers. The first step is idea development, where they think of offering a low-sugar or oat milk drink. After that, they move to idea screening, where they evaluate if the idea fits their brand and if customers will actually like it. Hindi lahat ng idea ay pinupush, kaya pinipili lang nila yung pinaka-possible. Then, they proceed to strategy development, where they plan how to sell the product. This includes identifying their target market, setting the price, and deciding how to promote it. Dito nila inisip kung paano magiging attractive ang product sa customers. Then next, the company performs financial analysis to check if the product will be profitable. They calculate the cost of ingredients, packaging, and other expenses. Tinitingnan din nila kung paano or magkano ang magiging selling price at ilang units ang kailangan maibenta para kumita. After that, they move to product development and testing. They create the actual drink and let some customers try it. Mahalaga ang feedback dito kasi dito nila nalalaman kung masarap ba o may kailangan pang baguhin. If needed, they improve the product based on the suggestions of the customers. Finally, the last step is product marketing, where they officially introduce the product to the public. They use promotions like discounts, social media ads, or special offers to attract customers. Dito na nila makikita kung tatangkilikin ba talaga ng market ang product. If successful, it can increase their sales and customers base. Pero kung hindi, they can still learn from the experience and improve next time. In the end, new product development is not just about creating something new, but about making sure it is useful, profitable, and acceptable to customers.
So now let's proceed to ethics. What is ethics? Ethics is the study of our moral choices and values. In short, it helps us decide what is right and what is wrong. Every time we make a decision, whether small or big, we are actually practicing ethics. So for example, choosing not to cheat on an exam even if no one is watching is an ethical decision. So next we have the culture and ethics. Different cultures have different ideas of what is acceptable or not. What is considered respectful or ethical in one culture may not be the same in another. For example, in some cultures, being very direct is okay, while in others, it may be seen as rude. So ethics can be influenced by the culture we grow up in. Lastly, we have the codes of ethics. So basically, these are sets of rules or standards that guide behavior. These rules can apply to individuals, businesses, or entire professions. For example, we have the doctors, teachers, and business owners all follow certain codes of ethics to make sure they act responsibly. However, even if people belong to the same culture or organization, they can still have different personal beliefs about what is right or wrong.
Good day everyone. So today I will explain ethics and business. So first, business ethics refers to the application of what is right and what is wrong in the workplace. It guides how a business should act when dealing with employees, customers, and society. For example, are being honest in advertising, treating workers fairly, and following the law are all part of ethical business practices. So, there are also common myths about business and ethics. So, some people think that entrepreneurs don't need to worry about ethical issues, especially when they are focused on profit. So, however, this is not true. In reality, applying ethics in business is very important because it helps prevent problems such as legal issues, loss of trust, and damage to the reputation. So in short, ethics is not just about being good. It is also a smart strategy for long-term success. So businesses that follow ethical practices are more trusted, also more respected, and more likely to grow. For this slide, establish an ethical workplace. So, as the owner or leader of a business, it is your responsibility to inspire your employees to behave ethically. This means setting a good example by showing honesty, fairness, and respect in all actions. So, when leaders act ethically, employees are more likely to follow. So there are several reasons why creating an ethical workplace is important. First, it allows you to be proud of how you manage yourself and your business. And it encourages others to respect and trust you. Second, ethical behavior is good for business because it builds trust with customers, which can lead to loyalty and long-term success. So, another important step is to create a written code of ethics. So, this serves as a guide for both the owner and employees in making the right decisions, especially in difficult situations. So, having an ethical workplace is not just about rules, but about building trust, respect, and a positive work environment.
So, social responsibilities.
Entrepreneurs also have personal responsibilities to the people they work and deal with, to the communities in which they are located, and even to the environment. It means that entrepreneurs have responsibilities not only to their business but also to the people they interact with and the communities they operate in and the environment. These are the social responsibilities, and they are the following. First is the responsibilities to customers, responsibilities to suppliers, responsibilities to creditors and investors, and lastly, responsibilities to your community. Now, what is responsibilities to customers? Responsibilities to customers like providing quality products and services, fair pricing, and good customer service. For example, selling a durable clothes at fair prices and ensuring their marketing is truthful. Next is the responsibilities to suppliers. Responsibilities to suppliers like maintaining fair dealings, timely payments, and ethical partnerships. For example, paying textile manufacturers on time and ensuring they use ethical labor practices. The third one is the responsibilities to the creditors and investors. Ensuring financial transparency, responsible management of funds, and delivering returns on investment. For example, providing a regular financial reports and working to increase the company's profitability. And the last one is responsibilities to the community. Contributing positively through job creation, supporting local initiatives, and minimizing negative environmental impact. For example is hiring local residents, donating some of their unsold inventory to a local shelter, and using eco-friendly materials to reduce pollution.
Respecting the environment is an important responsibility for any entrepreneur. Businesses do not operate in isolation, they affect the natural surroundings through their use of resources, production processes, and waste. Therefore, entrepreneurs have a duty to minimize harm and act in ways that protect the environment. Firstly, businesses should aim to prevent pollution. This means reducing harmful emissions, properly managing chemicals, and ensuring that their activities do not contaminate air, water, or land. By doing so, they help maintain a healthier ecosystem for both people and wildlife. Secondly, conserving non-renewable resources such as coal and oil is essential. These resources are limited, so using them efficiently helps extend their availability and reduces environmental damage caused by extraction and overuse. Another key responsibility is waste management. Businesses should reduce the amount of waste they produce and ensure that any waste is disposed of safely and responsibly. Recycling and reusing materials are effective ways to achieve this. In addition, entrepreneurs are encouraged to use environmentally friendly and sustainable energy sources such as solar or wind power. These alternatives reduce dependence on fossil fuels and lower greenhouse gas emissions. Finally, businesses should offer products that cause minimal harm to the environment. This includes using eco-friendly materials, reducing packaging, and designing products that are durable or recyclable. Overall, respecting the environment not only protects natural resources but also builds a positive reputation for businesses and supports long-term sustainability.
Good day everyone. Today, I will briefly explain exports and imports, which are important parts of global trade. First, let's talk about exporting. Exports are products and services that are produced in one country and sent to another country to be sold. For example, if a country produces rice or electronics and sells them to another country, those goods are called exports. There are different types of exporting. The first is direct exporting, where a company sells its products straight to customers in another country. Second is indirect export, where a middleman or agent helps sell the product internationally. And lastly, we have selling worldwide through the web, where businesses use the internet to reach customers across the globe easily. Now, let's move on to importing. Imports are products and services that are brought into a country from another country to be sold. For example, when we buy gadgets, clothes, or food that are made in other countries, those are imports. In simple terms, exports are goods going out of a country, while imports are goods coming into a country. Both exports and imports are very important because they help countries get the products they need and allow businesses to grow internationally. That's all. Thank you.
So, next is international business right for you. International business can help a company grow and succeed. One reason is increased sales because business can reach more customers in different countries. Another reason is reduce costs since materials and labor may be cheaper abroad. It also helps in increasing dependence on current market and suppliers, making the business more stable. However, before expanding, it is important to analyze market to understand customers' need and preferences. Lastly, businesses should write an international business plan to set clear goals and strategies for success. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I am Aaron Sinswat, and for the last topic of this chapter, I am going to discuss government regulation of international trade. Some governments establish trade barriers, which are methods for keeping foreign businesses from competing with domestic producers. This is a way that a government in a country imposes when doing international trade to protect small businesses in the small businesses in the domestic country, protect jobs in those small businesses, and protect the businesses that are still in their infant stage. So the following are the types that are trade barriers that a country imposes. Quotas. It is a limit on the amount of a product that can be imported into a country over a particular period of time. In the quotas, a specific amount is stipulated to how many can be imported or exported into a foreign country. It is a way that can be it is a way to protect the amount is delivered to a specific country. Tariffs is a tax on imports. Tariffs is basically the tax imposed on a goods that has been imported to a country or exported. Qualitative restrictions is a standard of a quality an imported product must meet before it can be sold. Qualitative restrictions stipulate a certain or specific standard of quality that a imported product must possess before it can be sold or imported or exported into a foreign country. The North American Free Trade Agreement is basically an agreement remove most barriers to trade and investment among the US, Mexico, and Canada. In the Philippines, there is also the Asian or the Association for the Southeast Asian Nations that a trade agreement between the members of the Southeast Asians. Government assistance to companies operating abroad. Of course, there's also government agencies that are available to answer your questions about doing businesses overseas if they wish to expand their operations to other countries. Examples of the government agencies are the Office of International Trade of the Small Business Administration, the International Trade Administration, and the Bureau of Industry and Security. That's all for my part and thank you.